recently I stumbled across a TEDx talk by this lady named Mel Robbins, and you know, I'm a sucker for a good motivational speech or some life hack or whatever. And so as I started watching this one, the first thing I noticed was she had an amazing stage presence. She was just so authentic in the way that she communicated her message. And basically what her message is it's called the 5-second method. So she first starts off by laying the foundational work by saying all of our brains basically have two sides. There's the autopilot side, and then there's the emergency brake side. And in our lives, we might have these impulses, these promptings, these ideas that come into our minds, and we have basically 5 seconds to make a decision and to do something, either record a note or make that introduction or go talk to that person or whatever it is. If we don't marry that impulse with an action of any type of action, it doesn't have to be like huge, but if we don't do something in 5 seconds, our mind pulls the emergency brake and kills the idea. And so that method of 5 seconds, it's so simple, but I think there's a lot of truth to that, in that when we have those aha moments, do something. So the easiest thing is obviously just record that and you know, take a break for 3 minutes and record exactly what you felt, and then, you know, say I'll address it at the end of the day. And then the next follow-up action is to build on that first action, is to then look at the note and make a plan. What's the next step? And then take it from there. But if we just get in this habit of, you know, autopilot, where we oftentimes feel bored in our lives because we have just routine after routine. Rhythms are good, but at a certain extent, we need to mix it up a little bit, have some creativity. And so here we find ourselves in autopilot or emergency brake. There is kind of no in between, she says, and she also goes on to talk about how we have to force ourselves to do that thing, because we don't have a part of our brain. It's all built on autopilot or emergency brake. We don't have something to activate us into new things, and so we have to force ourselves. We have to exert some energy. It's gonna take energy to do something out of the autopilot mode, and that's just realizing that, and then knowing that you have to force yourself. Just because something's a great thing doesn't mean you're gonna just do it. Everything new requires a level of activation energy. Now, once we get out of bed, once we exert that energy, whatever it is in that situation, then we can then start building on momentum and keep ourselves up there versus maybe going back down if we don't do anything. We don't always, that activation energy, it's kind of like starting a car. I've heard that starting process that's when the most battery power is required, is when you're initially cranking over the engine. Once you get it going, then it actually will charge the battery. So it's that activation energy concept. So the whole purpose of this discussion, that video that I watched, her concept of the 5-second rule really is a great simple approach. She says she uses it in lots of different ways to snap ourselves out of negative thinking, because we often, our mind starts spinning up, negative thoughts really quick. And if we can just have enough awareness, personal awareness, to say, oh, negative thought, and you just literally count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then anchor your mind with some good mantra that you have, some good quote that you have, something to kind of reset. Then you don't end up spinning down that negative thought and getting yourself wound up. And I talked in a previous video, what's on the dashboard of our minds, okay? If it's it's duration and intensity and emotion. If we have those things, if we have something always on our mind, it becomes our reality. So, summary. Here we go. Quick summary, because I know I've kind of been talking about a lot of different things, but realize that if you want change, it will require you to force yourself into doing something with an active energy. If you don't have that energy, figure it out. Why don't you have that energy? But take that step, and you basically have 5 seconds when a good idea comes, any idea, you have 5 seconds to take an action. Otherwise, your brain will pull on that emergency brake, and you will find yourself dismissing that idea. So what are you going to do? Force yourself into it in the first 5 seconds. Whoa, sorry, that was I was trying to avoid that sneeze. So what are you going to do when that awesome idea comes? Do something. You have 5 seconds. If you have a negative idea come, count to 5. From 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Anchor. Literally move that thought from this spot where it's going to be, into a spiral situation. Move it to the prefrontal cortex and ground it with a good mantra, a good thought, a good, word, whatever it is to remind you of what excites you. So it's there's two sides to this coin. The first one is acting on the good things. You have 5 seconds to do so. And by using the 5 seconds on the other side, you can move away and pivot off of the negative thoughts. So I'm going to put a link down below to this amazing, I think it's like a 20-minute, motivational talk that Mel Robbins gives. Fantastic. Can really be applied into all of our lives. But those are my thoughts and kind of my twist on how I took in that information and how I feel like it can help you as someone who is potentially a small business owner who's got thoughts coming in and needs to realize you got about 5 seconds to figure that out. And any doubts that come in or negative thoughts, with 5 seconds you can completely retool the way that your mind handles that negative thought. So hopefully that was helpful.